The injury bug already biting the San Francisco 49ers. The training camp hasn't even started yet. They release another safety, depth getting very thin at wide receiver and on the back end of the 49ers defense. We'll talk about on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky on Twitter. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us, getting ready for camp starting in just a couple days here. And more players than we thought won't be on the field for the 49ers when veterans do report and practices get underway. But there could be a possibility that this is maybe a big nothing with the injury list and the PUP list. And we'll go through it all and all the players the 49ers put on the PUP list this week before camp started. And George Odom released too, and take a peek at the defensive depth chart, which is getting very thin at the safety position and clearly a huge special teams overhaul for the 49ers. Make sure you're all subscribed up on YouTube and anywhere you are listening to this podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets at FanDuel. And all you got to do is win your first $5 bet. All right, Croc. Not only Ricky Pearsall, who we didn't quite expect. Last we heard from Kyle Shanahan, it was a minor hamstring thing. They're holding him out, being smart about it, and he would be ready for the start of camp. He goes on the physically unable to perform list, along with Brandon Aiyuk, who we knew would be on the injured list to start camp for the 49ers. And they aren't the only ones. Malik Mustafa, again, not a surprise. He's coming back from his ACL injury, but the 49ers released George Odom. And so they're getting pretty thin there at safety with a rookie and Jair Brown and a couple of new free agent additions and Jason Pinnock and Richie Grant. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the safety depth in a minute, but we got to talk about some wide receiver depth first because Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Aiyuk going on the physically unable to perform list to open camp, along with new offensive lineman Andre Dillard, defensive lineman Yetur Gross-Matos, and linebacker Curtis Robinson. And Odom was slated to start on the active/non-football injury list, but they just released him instead. And so I don't know if there's an injury settlement or what with that. And then maybe there's disagreement on whether he was actually injured or not, or how injured he was. And then offensive lineman Ben Barch, who is slated to start at left guard, is also going to open camp on the active/non-football injury list. Croc, are the 49ers doomed? The one thing we talked about is the 49ers aren't going to be as injured as they were last year, and they're starting camp injured again, Croc.
It's not ideal. You want everybody to show up, be healthy, ready to go. And then you want to do your best to keep them injury-free. But right now, it seems like the 49ers are going to do their best just to make sure that their guys can get through training camp and be healthy for week 1, which is most important. All right, let's not get that lost here. I got a player right now who's coming back, had like a little meniscus procedure, and he wants to rush back. And I'm like, dude, don't rush back. The most important date is August 22nd, right? That's our week 1 against Liberty Ranch. All right, so don't worry about trying to get on the field right now. And maybe your teammates pressure you to have to be out there. Nope. We have our plan, and we're going to stick to our plan and make sure that you're healthy for week 1. And I think the 49ers should go about it the same way. Yeah, of course, we don't want to hear that these guys have these nagging or lingering things going on. But the most important thing is come September 11th or whenever the first game is, the 49ers players are all healthy and ready to go. So it's not fun. And we talked a lot about, especially for a guy like Ricky Pearsall, just building that rapport with your quarterback. You're missing out on that time. I'm more worried about that than I am him showing up on the injury report.
Oh, we got the schedule right here. September 7th, Seattle Seahawks, week 1. That is the date. September 7th, kickoff weekend for the San Francisco 49ers. And
so that's the most important date, like right. September 7th. And again, I know we want to see these guys on the field right now. Like I saw that report, pop up on my social media. I'm like, Ricky Pearsall? Like, what?
that was everybody's reaction. Because last we heard he was supposed to be ready for camp. It was a minor injury.
Yeah.
And
but even if it is minor, I still think you do everything to just make sure, because hamstrings and things like that, they can have some lingering effects. So it could very well still be minor, but would you rather just put him out there and, oh yeah, he's good to go, have him play right now? Or would you say, you know what, we want to give him an extra 2 to 3 weeks to be like 100%, and we are certain we did everything and gave him the proper rest? And again, yeah, maybe if he's not out there now, again, we're having this conversation, maybe for the first day of training camp, he shows up, they take him off the PUP list, and he's full go. But I would take more precaution, especially with someone who early on has been somebody who's kind of been banged up.
And something like a hamstring, you don't want to re-aggravate that thing and make it a months long injury that could have been something that's good to go in a couple of weeks. And so with Ricky Pearsall, we don't really know how bad the injuries are from some of these players. We know the guys that are recovering from ACL and off-season surgeries and things like that, where they're at. But specifically with Ricky Pearsall was the big, eyebrow raiser amongst that group, especially with, also the storyline from last week with Juwan Jennings, potentially a hold-in situation for him, demanding a trade or a new contract. Neither of those things has happened yet as we approach camp, and we're seeing a lot of moves and a lot of things happening around the league. So this is a time when a lot of those I's get dotted and T's get crossed before the season starts. So we'll see what happens with Juwan Jennings. But as of now, it's looking like when camp opens and the first practice starts, the day after everybody shows up which is the 23rd, I believe would be the first practice. We're looking at the first 3 wide receivers on the depth chart not practicing in Pearsall, Aiyuk, and Jennings. Then you have Demarcus Robinson, who might get suspended for 3 weeks to start the year, but the suspension wouldn't affect him practicing. So I'd assume he would be sort of the quasi wide receiver one, just being a veteran. Although Jacob Cowing was here last year, Demarcus Robinson was not. So does that mean Cowing is the one and Demarcus Robinson's more of a two, and those would be the kind of 2 starting quote unquote wide receivers potentially when camp opens? Jordan Watkins, the 4th round rookie, would be in the mix. The 7th round rookie, Junior Bergen, who's thought of more as a return man first, and that's how he's gonna have to earn his roster spot, and we'll see what kind of receiver he is. On top of that, you have the undrafted rookie in Isaiah Nair. Last year, undrafted rookie Tariq Owens. You got Russell Gage, Malik Knowles, and the other veteran, Isaiah Hodgins, who I think would be in the mix with one of the top 3 guys probably catching passes to open camp if Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings are not on the practice field in that first practice session.
I did see a tweet that we were both tagged in from Option Zero on X. All right, and this is from Matt Mayoko, who he quoted. He said, players who were rehabbing physical conditions at the end of the offseason program can report early to training camp. They automatically go on the PUP list. Some of those players are expected to come off of the list and be on the field for 49ers practice when it begins on Wednesday. So hopefully that kind of puts some of our minds at ease a little bit with what's going on. But again, you never know, and you still, even then, don't want to rush guys back from certain kind of things that's been lingering a little bit.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Croc, because next I think we need to talk about why maybe it's not that big of a deal that some of these guys are on the list, and some procedural stuff that might put some minds at ease for 49ers fans out there that are a little worried that the injury bug might be biting a little too soon to start 2025. We'll get into that next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Summer sports, they're here. They're in full swing. The All-Star break is over. Don't like a sweep of the San Francisco Giants, but that's okay. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. Heck, you can get involved while you are also getting sunburned on the beach. All you need is that FanDuel app in your hand, and if you're new to FanDuel, how about $150 in bonus bets for new customers? More on that in a moment, because you can still bet on not only all the summer sports, but how about those fall and winter sports like football, Weekly lines already up. September 7th, Seahawks. Yeah, that line is up, and you can bet on it at FanDuel right now. Bet on the Niners to win the Super Bowl. So many 2025 NFL props, college football props already up and ready to go. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. This episode of Locked On 49ers also brought to you by BetterHelp. One of our longtime sponsors here in BetterHelp, and workplace stress is at an all-time high. Not as much for me because I get to talk to Croc every single day, even though there are stressors, no doubt. No matter where you work and wherever you are in the world, 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. This summer is the perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness and manage the challenges that come with your workday. And, sometimes maybe work is smooth and maybe home life is what has you stressed out. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs or take endless vacations, but we can start small, whether it's getting outside for a few minutes, adding movement into your day, or talking to someone who can help navigate life's challenges. That's where BetterHelp comes in. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. So, Croc, as you relayed there, according to Matt Mayoko, players who are rehabbing physical conditions at the end of this offseason program can report early to training camp. They automatically go on the PUP list. Some of those players are expected to come off the list and be on the field when the 49ers begin practice on Wednesday. So that is good news and something that I wanted to bring up today because these guys, you come to camp and you report and then you get a physical and then you're healthy. So the last thing that you was injured, then I think you have to be thought of as injured until you pass physical and you are allowed to go practice. So I think that's the bucket that Ricky Pearsall is in. And hopefully that means that it's procedural. And then once camp opens, gets a physical and they give him a full bill of health, he can go out there and practice. And so that's what you hope happens with him and many of the other players that are on the list, like Yetur Gross-Matos, who's been banged up quite a bit really in his NFL career and with the 49ers and some other players there. And of course, we will not expect guys like Malik Mustafa and Brandon Aiyuk to be back soon, but they should be back at some point as long as those rehabs go well. And we'll probably get a lot more information on all of that when Kyle Shanahan speaks, which he is scheduled to do, I think, on that first day of practice on Wednesday. So we'll get a little bit more information there. And I think some other good news from it is that two rookies specifically that have already reported to camp, because rookies were a week early on this reporting and getting to Santa Clara and getting ready to practice. And now signed second round pick in Alfred Collins. He's not on the PUP list, and neither is, or the NFI list, as has been reported, or at least it hasn't been reported that they're on that list. And Marcus Siegel, who's also banged up and dealing with an injury in the spring camp and in OTAs, he was also not listed there. So I think that's good news, although maybe we're not out of the woodworks there and the rookies are on a different timeline, and we'll find out that they aren't able to practice, but no NFI list for those two guys to be reported yet, which is, I think, some good news. So it might not be that big of a deal, but man, with the Aiyuk thing, with the Pearsall injury nagging, some of the injuries he dealt with last year, and the Juwan Jennings thing, I can understand why some 49ers fans are like, come on, man, what's going on? Can't we at least start in a good place this year, even if things do go haywire?
Grand Sport Jew in the chat says if they pick up a vet, it should be a safety. And you talked about Greg Odom, them releasing him. 49ers did bring in a couple of veteran safeties. We talked about them when we went over our positional groups, but Richie Grant, Jason Pinnick, those are veterans, two guys who have really started a lot of games. So I think you're comfortable if they have to play and there is no Jair Brown. And, obviously you want to bring Siegel along and give him the reps that he deserves, but in a way that is best suited for his development. Or Malik Mustafa, we'll see when he eventually comes back. But Pinnick and Richie Grant, those are the two veterans. Releasing Odom, he wasn't a guy who was supposed to just be out there and just be this like, full-time starting safety for you. He's supposed to be like a special teams ace. So I wonder if on a unit that the 49ers are looking to improve on, maybe he just didn't have the same output that they thought they were going to be getting from him. I mean, now he did play defense in a small sample size and filled in when need be, but ideally he's your guy that you could just count on special teams to be on every special teams unit, and you just let him go. But that was like the main reason. Like that was what everybody was so excited about when the 49ers made the signing of Odom.
Didn't he start week 1 last year? Right?
Did he? I mean, he played a lot.
I think it was Jair Brown and George Odom. Not
George
Greg
Odom. I call him Greg Odom.
Odom.
I call him Greg. The Portland Trailblazers center who had bad knees. Don't want to compare him to him.
Yeah.
Supposed to be really good, actually. Still wouldn't have drafted him over Kevin Durant. But either way, that's Greg Odom. Not Greg Odom. Excuse me, George Odom.
That was my first ever radio show in my life, was debating Kevin Durant and Greg Odom at San Francisco State Radio. We did a radio show called Sports Outside the Mainstream, and we talked a lot of NBA and NFL specifically, and we talked a lot about Greg Odom and Kevin Durant. And I think I might have been Team Odom back then too, because he was a legit big man center.
He was a big
and I didn't realize, and I think a lot of people didn't quite realize, as good as Durant was, I was like, man, he's kind of a skinny power forward. I didn't realize he was a 6'11" two guard, essentially, right? And so I might have been Team Odom there. If he'd had better knees, I would have loved to see how that career would have gone.
I think it would have looked a lot different.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I did have Patrick Willis that same year, college radio. I've got the show somewhere. I would love to hear it. I had Patrick Willis mocked to the San Francisco 49ers in that 2007 draft.
The shadow draft was ahead of its time.
Too. Yeah, I was a lot better with the NFL analysis than the NBA analysis, put it that way. And I had Calvin Johnson number 1. I don't know what the Raiders were thinking in that draft. So yeah, that's interesting. I think I don't know. Who would be available in the free agent market to make you would need someone that can start. And if you're not going to do that, then you're just muddying the water with just a back of the roster veteran, whether it's safety or wide receiver, right, Croc? So I'm not sure, unless you just need camp bodies, that the 49ers would do anything at either position right now. I mean, if you needed a safety, why would you release George Odom?
I'm trying to look at, okay, here we go. Available safeties, right? Like a free agent that maybe some people might want. And am I seeing this wrong? Or is Justin Simmons a free agent still?
Yeah, Justin Simmons hadn't signed yet. There was a lot of talk that the 49ers might be interested there, and then they went in some other directions. That would be a little weird because, again, I don't think if you're going to sign Justin Simmons, you would have signed him to start a long time ago.
Yeah. There's a couple of names, though, that I still do like. Actually, a few are outside of Simmons. Quandre Diggs. He's a kind of a journeyman safety at this point, but he's a really good fill-in type safety. And you wouldn't mind him starting games. Now, he has a lot of experience. He's played 10 years in the NFL, but I've always liked Diggs and what he brings to the game. Also, Jordan Poyer. I really like Jordan Poyer. Gosh, going on 12 years. I remember when he was coming out of college and he was at like a bowl game in San Antonio when I was out there. So that aligns, because 2012 I was in San Antonio, 2012, 13. That aligns 12 years ago. And it feels like yesterday. But Jordan Poyer, versatile guy, and he was really good on, especially playing for the Buffalo Bills. And in his role, I think he was drafted by Cleveland Browns, I believe. But he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He could play safety, nickel, gives you some versatility. Clearly, I feel like he's only been in the league for like 6 years, but 12 years, he's still somebody that may be worth a look at this point in his career. If you want to go the veteran safety route, a route where it's like, okay, this guy on top of Pinnock, on top of Richie Grant, is a guy that can come in and really play.
JD says Mustafa Jay Brown, Pinnick, Grant, and Siegel is good enough.
If healthy, it is good enough. But Mustafa and Brown are hurt. So
right. Siegel, and hopefully Siegel can get on the field. He hasn't practiced yet with the 49ers, or he might have practiced a little bit to begin rookie camp, OTAs and stuff. Can't remember what his injury timeline was. Next, Croc, let's take a quick look at who's available at wide receiver too. If the 49ers feel like, man, they're up against it and they might have to do something at wide receiver and bring in maybe a veteran that could help them out with so many guys who might not be available early in this season. Next. This episode is brought to you in part by Rugiet. And guys, you've probably heard of Viagra, Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. And if traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and it's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor, ships your treatment discreetly to your door. So head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. Use promo code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit Rugiet website for full safety information. The 49ers actually have a ton of wide receivers, and Juwan Jennings is healthy and able to play if they can figure out the money part. So would caving on Jennings with his timing in this demand of a new contract, is he like genius with the way he's timed this out and planned this out to make the 49ers say, well, why would we go looking on the free agent market? Let's just give Juwan Jennings the money. He's our guy already. We know he can be the main target at wide receiver while we're waiting on Pearsall to get healthy, while we're waiting on Brandon Aiyuk. Then we've got Cowing and Watkins and everybody, Isaiah Hodgins, Demarcus Robinson behind him as well to compete for spots. Or do you think one of those veteran free agents might be a way to go for the 49ers?
I think Jennings, everything kind of worked out the way that, like, if he was ever going to be able to really maximize his value to the 49ers this offseason, heading into the season, it would be the circumstances that currently presented themselves. So he's not mad at all with how things have worked out with certain guys being kind of banged up. You have a player coming back from injury, the season he had last year. Like, he's kind of in the perfect situation for him. But if they wanted to kind of look on the outside, obviously there's a guy like Chris Conley who has been with the 49ers the last, 2-3 years, I feel like, understands his role if he would have to come in and play. And I could see them saying, all right, let's bring Chris Conley back right now. And if something happens, we can let him go, or we can bring him back on practice squad. So there's always that kind of opportunity for a guy like Chris Conley. Outside of Chris Conley, there are some bigger names. But again, I think these are names that I feel like more middle of the season, if things aren't working quite out, you would sign maybe these top two guys. That's Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper, maybe Gabriel Davis as well. Like, those are three names where it's like, all right, we need help, right? Like, kind of like what Emmanuel Sanders was to the 49ers in 2019. You had Kendrick Bourne and Debo and Marquise Goodwin and, Trent Taylor, a lot of these younger receivers. And it's like, feels a little weird. We got to go get somebody that can come in right now, and we're going to give him a meaningful role in our offense. Like, I feel like that's what Keenan Allen, Gabriel Davis, Amari Cooper, I feel like that's what they are for the 49ers, and I don't foresee them maybe being available that long. Maybe, who knows? Also, they have to fit what Kyle Shanahan does offensively, and I think they do from a skill set standpoint, but blocking, like, that really matters with the 49ers. And okay, I saw in the chat, Chris Conley retired. My apologies, no Conley. All right, but aside from Conley, or maybe he will come out of retirement.
He's
like, has he filed all his papers?
I mean, I don't know if classes have started yet, but he's going back to the University of Georgia to school. Like he wants to be a director. And in fact, I just wanted to double check on that. And I just saw a story where he wrote and directed a Star Wars fan film and also acted in it. It's a 26-minute film. I don't know if there's any copies of that film around, but yeah, he's looking to get a Master of Fine Arts in film and television potentially. So there you go. I like that for Chris Conley. His artistic side post sports jock career.
Yeah, set yourself up for life after football. I mean, played 10 years, 33 years old, probably still feeling pretty good. And now I was like, all right, let me set up the next 30 years of my life. That sounds amazing to me. But Chris Conley, if he were to come off of, being retired, that's a guy that understands what the 49ers are looking for. But I do like Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Gabriel Davis. But again, they feel more like middle of the season. Hey, this group we have not quite working. We need somebody to come in right now, and we're going to give him a role, and we're going to really lean on him like they did with Emmanuel Sanders. It would be those three guys. At this point in the offseason, I don't see those guys being names that they would look at. I think you would kind of go more towards a, Juwan Renfree or even Allen Robinson, because of at this point in his career and what he is. Like, I still don't value him the same way I would a Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper. So there are a few names out there that I feel like could come in and contribute to the situation the 49ers are in. But it's really tough because you don't even know, like, is Ricky Pearsall going to come off that list come Wednesday?
Yeah, the big reason I still don't get the DeMarcus Robinson signing, because they knew he was potentially and likely going to be suspended for 3 games to start the year. Those were the most, like, if I would have rather signed the guy who was only going to play the first 3 games of the year and not the rest of the season. Like, that was the most important thing they needed, was someone early in the year while Brandon Aiyuk was recovering. And so that's just a really strange one for me. And now he'll probably be taking a lot of the practice time, and then now he won't be playing. So if you don't, let's say the hamstring's bad and Ricky Pearsall can't play. Well, it's like, well, now DeMarcus Robinson's taking rests from guys who are going to actually be on the field in week 1, 2, 3 for the 49ers. So the DeMarcus Robinson one, and I think he's a nice player, and I think he's the right type of veteran if he would have been someone who was going to be available early in the season, which he's not. So strange signing to me.
I understand it from just a veteran presence standpoint, right? Like, if you just say, oh, DeMarcus Robinson, 49ers signed him, so okay, 3rd, 4th receiver, awesome. But it is kind of weird because he's going to be thrusted in more of a role, especially early on, but then he can't even play the first few games. Is the appeal still going on with that? Like, have they handed down?
No.
Because from what I understand, everybody, it's more speculation. That's what people are expecting it to be, a 3-game suspension.
Yeah, and it's similar with somebody else had something recently as well. Basically, the NFLPA and the CBA and it's happened so many times that it's kind of automatic, and everyone knows, okay, you got a DUI, it's gonna be 3 games, and that's kind of where they're at. So I think everyone just assumes it and knows that that's so likely that that's going to be the outcome, because that's just been what the baseline has been for that. And his legal stuff though is over. And that was reported on last week, couple weeks ago. And good news for him, he's not going to have any jail time or anything like that. And so the legal part is done. So now the league can be like, okay, here's the legal stuff. It's finished. The league can say, okay, that's that. And now here's your suspension. And so we'll probably find out at some point soon. It'll like most people expect it's going to be a 3-game suspension. I just look at Jacob Cowing, man. I think that's the one that's like just a huge opportunity. Like, Cowing is going to get more reps in camp and preseason than he probably expected, or that most people would have, chalked up for him if everyone was healthy and if Juwan Jennings wasn't holding out. He's going to get a starter's amount of reps to start camp, very likely. So what can he do with those? He's super athletic. He's a good player. I'm excited for him. And everybody was raving about how he looked in OTAs as well. So I think if there's one big winner throughout all of this, it is guys like Jacob Cowing, maybe the rookie Jordan Watkins, Isaiah Hodgins, having an opportunity to carve out potentially a bigger role. And if you show out with those extra opportunities earlier in camp, maybe Kyle Shanahan doesn't want to let you give those opportunities back to other guys, even when they are healthier.
We saw with Richie James, sometimes these guys are just kind of buried on the roster, and you look and it's not the most productive guys, but a lot of times it's just a real opportunity, like an opportunity to get the reps to where, coaches take them serious. And when you have 3 games of probably no, Brandon Aiyuk, I don't know why I was blanking on his name. You have 4 games of probably no Brandon Aiyuk. You have 3 games or so of, no Demarcus Robinson. These guys have to have an opportunity. And I am very curious to see what they do with it.
I've seen this quite a bit. Ricky already a bust in the chat, Croc. What do you think about that? One of the things that we talked about, Greg Oden, right? One of the things that happens with athletes is they can't get on the field. And there's something that prevents them from being the player that they could have been because of injury. And in that regard, that's what could happen to somebody. It could happen to Ricky Pearsall. The evidence that we have right now for Ricky Pearsall is certainly not that. And we've seen enough of him on the field to be like, dude, at the very base level, I don't know how good he's going to be after the catch. I don't know if he's going to be a downfield demon or anything like that. But dude can get open, and he's got pure hands. He can catch the ball. So it's a pretty good start. He's proven in the NFL he can get open and catch the football. And I have a feeling he's going to have a big year. And I have a feeling that he's going to get activated very soon. And it's probably just precautionary right now and maybe even procedural with him being on the PUP list. And we'll find out from Kyle Shanahan here in a couple of days. But throwing around the bust term, I think it's just way off.
Yeah, now he fits what Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers want to do. And I continue to go back to last offseason where Kyle Shanahan just raved at the professional that he was. So just from that standpoint, he's a guy that was like, let's give him a chance, guys. Let's give him a chance and see him on the field consistently. And some of it too might not quite be him. There was a stretch of games where I think it was like 3 games. He had 0 catches and like 1 target or just something crazy like that. So, first round picks, they need opportunities as well.
Yeah. He ran like 100 routes too. The ball was just not going his way. So I don't know if it was a trust thing, which I think has been a thing for Kyle Shanahan and young wide receivers in the past. But man, he can get open, he can catch the ball, and he's got a work ethic. So I mean, that's a great start right there. And be smart, get that hamstring right. And I think we'll see a lot of highlights from Ricky Pearsall, and a lot of people jazzed about him in training camp in the preseason leading into 2025. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all the everydayers. Tell a friend about Locked On 49ers, and, of course, subscribe wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. And Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.